time is precisely 6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinga and read by Rumesh Pires. First, the headlines. The national program to mark the first anniversary of COVID vaccination program will be held tomorrow. Sri Lanka records export revenue of over $15 billion in 2021. Turkey and Sri Lanka pay attention to promote trade. The National Savings Bank adds additional 12 rupees to each dollar remittance. The Beragala town, located at the foot of Haputale mountain, will be developed to attract tourists. In news overseas, Russia says it does not want a war. In sports, the Australian Open, Rafael Nadal beats Matteo Berrettini to reach the Melbourne final. And now the local news in detail. The national program to mark the first anniversary of COVID vaccination program will be held tomorrow at 10:06 a.m. under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at the Health Ministry. To coincide with the event, provincial governors will conduct programs covering all 9 provinces. The Health Ministry has informed programs will also be conducted at provincial, district and regional health offices and hospitals. The Foreign Minister of Turkey, Mevlut Cavusoglu, says that attention has been paid on promoting trade with Sri Lanka. The Turkish Foreign Minister mentioned this when he met President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today at the Presidential Secretariat. He pointed out that Turkish marketplace would be widely open to Sri Lanka by diversification of its products. The minister said he would take steps to inform entrepreneurs in his country about investment opportunities in Sri Lanka. The President thanked the Turkish government for providing aid, including medical equipment and assistance to Sri Lanka to control COVID. The Deputy General Manager of the National Savings Bank, Christine Jasubia, says the bank will add another 2 rupees and give 12 rupees under the program to provide an additional 10 rupees to each dollar of foreign remittances. She said, apart from that, persons who send $100 or more weekly to the bank are offered a prize of 100,000 rupees following a draw. It will take place until the end of this month. Beragala town, located at the foot of Haputale mountain, will be developed to attract local and foreign tourists. Urban Development Authorities said development projects there are now being completed. The projects are being implemented under 100 Cities program on the instructions of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. All illegal constructions have been removed under the development plan. Safe observation rooms have been built at 3 locations from Beragala to Haputale. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news. Sri Lanka's COVID vaccination program completes 1 year tomorrow. Sri Lanka was among the first few countries which commenced vaccination on the 29th of January last year. Issuing a statement, Government Medical Officers Association said that they were able to rectify the shortcomings when preparing priority lists for COVID vaccination process. 51 million vaccine doses have been brought to the country so far. The GMOA has thanked all those who contributed to the success of the vaccination program. The writ application filed by the leader of the UNP, Ranil Wickremesinghe, against the recommendations of the Presidential Commission to investigate into political victimization has been fixed for consideration on March 30th. The petition was taken up before the appeals court today. In his petition, the UNP leader has requested the court to issue a writ order quashing the panel's recommendations against him and also sought an interim order preventing the implementation of the recommendations until the hearing of the petition is concluded. The Court of Appeal today ordered the Attorney General to submit a report regarding the death of 7 elephants near the Hiriwaduna Reserve in Habarana in 2019. The Court of Appeal made this order when a writ petition filed by the Centre for Environmental Justice was taken up for support. The Court of Appeal fixed the petition for support on March 29. Agrahara insurance payments have been made to 50,000 public servants. Director of the fund, Anura Samrakon, said the insurance has paid 6,381 million rupees to them. He said the number of COVID patients has reached a point where the insurance cannot bear it anymore. Therefore, he said priority will be given to patients who are hospitalized and under treatment at quarantine centers when making Agrahara insurance payments. New courts complexes have been opened in Kilinochchi, Mullaitivu and Mount Kulam areas. Justice Minister Ali Sabri inaugurated the court complexes yesterday. The new court complex for Kilinochchi has been constructed at a cost of 400 million rupees. 309 million rupees have been spent to build the Mullatiu Magistrates Court complex. 370 million rupees have been spent on the construction of the court complex in Manukulam area. Reverend Father Vasantan, administrator of St. Anthony's Church in Kachathevu, says devotees who have taken the booster dose will be allowed to attend the annual feast. He said only 500 devotees will be admitted this time to St. Anthony's Church in Kachathevu. Reverend Father Vasantan said that Indian devotees have been denied permission this time in view of the COVID infection. The annual festival for the Kachathevu St. Anthony's Church will be held on the 11th and 12th of March. And that concludes the bulletin of local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Government Information Department said Health Ministry has planned a booster vaccination week starting from tomorrow to coincide with the completion of the first year of the vaccination drive in Sri Lanka. The booster vaccination drive will be conducted at island-wide hospitals and the medical officer of health officers. 51 million doses of COVID vaccines have been brought to the country so far. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In Watchlight, the Foreign Ministry, in collaboration with the Government Information Centre's 1919 call centre, has introduced an appointment reservation system for the general public who wish to authenticate certificates and documents through the electronic document attestation system, in addition to the prevailing practice of walk-ins. The services under the new system are available from yesterday. Anyone wishing to reserve a time slot can do so by calling 1919 from any telephone network. And that came to you in Watchlight. A bulletin of world news is next.
Coming up, world news.
Moving on to the bulletin of world news, first the headlines. Russia says it does not want a war. Global supply chain disruption and shortages caused by the COVID pandemic are set to continue. The United Nations calls on all parties to observe a ceasefire during the upcoming Beijing Olympics and Paralympics. And now the world news in detail. Russia's foreign minister has said Russia does not want a war after Washington warned Moscow may invade Ukraine next month. Sergei Lavrov told Russian media today that the Kremlin was not seeking conflict with Kiev, but restated Moscow would not allow its security interests to be ignored. According to a report, global supply chain disruption and shortages caused by the COVID pandemic are set to continue well into 2022. Digital supply chain experts Project 44 say average delays on shipping from China to Europe rose to 6 days in December after falling for months. Delays on routes from China to the west coast of the US have also been increasing steadily since October. The United Nations is calling on all parties to observe a ceasefire during the course of the upcoming Beijing Olympics and Paralympics. The UN General Assembly adopted a truce resolution for the Beijing Games in December. It was co-sponsored by 173 member states. It called for the observance of a truce beginning on Friday, 7 days before the start of the Olympics, and ending on March 20th, 7 days after the end of the Paralympics. Back to the headlines of the world news. Russia says it does not want a war. Global supply chain disruption and shortages caused by the COVID pandemic are set to continue. The United Nations calls on all parties to observe a ceasefire during the upcoming Beijing Olympics and Paralympics. And that concludes the bulletin of world news.
Development news is brought to you by Let's take all out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
A private university village will be built in Paduka area. 123 acres have been bought by Mahapala Trust Fund to set up the village at a cost of 350 million rupees. Director of the fund, P. Bandara, said the revenue will be credited to the Mahapala Trust Fund. He said the higher educational institutions of several foreign countries have expressed their willingness to invest in the university village. And that was the development news.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070-400-1928.
Moving on to sports news, first it's cricket. The fifth match of the National Super League Limited Over Tournament between Dambulla and Galle was played today at the SSC grounds in Colombo. Batting first, Dambulla scored 165 in 50 overs. Galle won the match by 3 wickets by scoring 166 for 7 wickets in 34.2 overs. Meanwhile, the sixth match of the National Super League Limited Over Tournament, Kandy vs Colombo, was played at P. Saravanamuthu Stadium in Colombo today. Kandy scored 271 in 50 overs. Colombo won the match by 6 wickets. They scored 274 for 4 wickets in 48.1 overs. In other sports news, the Australian Open, Rafael Nadal moved 1 win away from the record 21st Grand Slam men's title after the dominant start enabled him to beat Italy's Matteo Berrettini in the Australian Open semi-finals. 7-seed Berrettini eventually turned the match into a contest, but Nadal completed a 6-3, 6-2, 3-6, 6-3 win. Nadal will face Daniil Medvedev or Stefanos Tsitsipas in Sunday's final. Finally, in Formula One news, Formula One's governing body is planning a new race management structure in an attempt to avoid a repeat of the problems at last year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. There is widespread acceptance across the sport that race director Michael Massey failed to follow the rules correctly during a late safety car period in the title-deciding race. And that in sports news. Business news is next.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The annual report themed Making Inimitable History of Alpetia Plantations PLC 2020 and 2021 was selected as one of the 10 best integrated reports at the CMA Excellence in Integrated Reporting Awards 2021. Alpetia Plantations also was crowned the winner in the plantation sector. And that was Business News.
Business news sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Sri Lanka has recorded export revenue of $15.12 billion for the year 2021. This is an increase of 23% compared to the year 2020, when the export revenue was reported as $12.34 billion. For the first time in the country's history, merchandise exports crossed the $12 billion mark in 2021 and earned $12.5 billion. It is well above the export target of 2021 and a growth of 24% compared to 2020. And that was economic news. The weather report is next.
The weather report.
And finally, moving on to the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thunder showers will occur at times over the northern, north central, eastern and over provinces and the Puntland district. Fairly heavy falls above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in the northern province. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the Sabaragamuwa and central provinces and in the Kalutara, Galle and Mathura districts during the evening or night. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western, central and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in Galle and Mathura districts during the morning. And that was the weather report. And to end this news broadcast, a recap of the main news headlines. The national program to mark the first anniversary of COVID vaccination program will be held tomorrow. Sri Lanka records export revenue of over $15 billion in 2021. Turkey and Sri Lanka pay attention to promote trade. The National Savings Bank adds additional 12 rupees to each dollar remittance. The Bergala town located at the foot of Haputale mountain will be developed to attract tourists. In news overseas, Russia says it does not want a war. In sports, the Australian Open, Rafael Nadal beats Matteo Berrettini to reach the Melbourne final. And that concludes this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.